Hello again. Thanks for stopping by Max's Cards and Dice Dugout. Robert Max here. This is episode 98. Hope everyone's doing well. And it's Strat-O-Matic Baseball this time out for game number 29 of the Oldtimer Kings King of the Hill tournament, which has the current Kings, the 1954 Cleveland Indians, playing host to the 1961 Cincinnati Reds. So this is a Buckeye State matchup. But these two teams did meet once before, back in game number 8. That game took place at Crosley Field in Cincinnati, and the Reds were victorious 3-1. Before we get to the starting lineups, let's take a look at the status of the Hill. And we can see that Cleveland is looking for win number 4, and the Reds are going to try to match the Phillies and the Yankees to become the third team that is halfway to making it to the Goodell Cup Finals. We got the 53 Brooklyn Dodgers on deck with the 60 Pirates in the hole. Okay, starting lineups for this game. First, for the Cincinnati Reds, leading off at shortstop is Leo Cardenas. He is playing for the injured Don Blasingame, who is going to be out 6 more games. So, as you'll see when we get to player number 2, Eddie Casco is playing second base. So Cardenas is leading off at short. Batting second is Eddie Casco. He's at second base. Batting third, Veda Pinson. He's in center field. Batting fourth, Frank Robinson. He's in right. Batting fifth, Wally Post. He's in left field. Batting sixth, Gene Freeze. He's at third. Batting seventh, Gordy Coleman. He's at first base. Batting eighth is catcher John Edwards. And batting ninth and pitching is Joey J. In 1961, he was 21-10 with a 3.53 ERA and 247 innings pitched. He gets the number 1 pitcher's hitting card. All right, for the current Kings, the 1954 Cleveland Indians, leading off in left field is Al Smith. Batting second at second base is Bobby Avila. Batting third in center field is Larry Doby. Batting fourth, Al Rosen at third base. Batting fifth, Vic Wertz. He's at first. Batting sixth, Dave Philly. He's in right. Batting seventh is shortstop George Strickland. Batting eighth, catcher Jim Hagan. And batting ninth and pitching is Bob Feller. In 1954, he was 13-3 with a 3.09 ERA and 140 innings pitched. And Feller gets the number 2 pitcher hitting card. So Feller is ready. Trying to get these cards out of the shadow. The Feller is ready. Cardenas is ready, and so am I, and we are underway. And Cardenas pops this one up. It's going to stay in the infield. It's over near first base. Vic Wertz is under that. And there's one away. Next up, Eddie Casco, who's playing second base due to the injury to Don Blasingame. And that's a strikeout. First strikeout for Feller, and there's 2 away here in the top of the first. Nobody on for Veda Pinson. That's a 2-out single for Pinson. He makes the turn and jogs back towards first base. So he's there with 2 away, and that's going to bring up Frank Robinson, right fielder. And Robinson lines one right at Bobby Avila, and Avila robs Robinson of a hit to end the top of the first. So no runs but 1 hit for the Reds in the top of the first. And with 1/2 in the books, we are scoreless with the Indians coming to bat. Bob Feller gets his first fatigue point. Here's Joey J. And Al Smith to lead off for the Indians. And that's a leadoff single for Al Smith. So he's on, nobody out. And Bobby Avila, second baseman. And Avila draws the walk. So now it's first and second for Cleveland with nobody out. And that's going to bring up Larry Doby, center fielder. He hits a ground ball to first baseman Gordy Coleman. And Coleman is going to go to Coleman is going to go over to Wirtz, who in turn, hold on a second. I'm looking at the wrong team. No, it's Coleman. He's going to go to, he's going to go to Cardenas at shortstop and then over to Eddie Casco covering first. I apologize for that. For a 3-6-4 double play. It's going to force Avila at second for the second out. Or the first out. And it's going to allow Smith to move over to third. So there's a man on third with 2 outs. And third baseman Al Rosen. Sorry about that. Caught myself looking at the wrong team. And that's going to score a run. That's a base hit for Rosen. Al Smith comes in, and the Indians are on the board 1-0. And Joey J gets his first fatigue point. So 2 outs, Rosen on first. And here's first baseman Vic Wirtz. This is a catcher's card X. John Edwards is a 2. And we roll a 13. And that's a pass ball. That's going to allow Rosen to move up to second on the pass ball. And on the next pitch, Wirtz pops it up near the Cleveland dugout. Edwards is under that and makes the catch in foul territory to retire the side. But the Indians do get a run. And after 1 inning of play, it's Cleveland 1 and Cincinnati 0. Joey J gets his second fatigue point. Bob Feller's back out. He's at 1 right now. It's the top of the second. And the first batter for the Reds is going to be left fielder Wally Post. And that's a deep fly ball to center field. That sends Doby back to the track, to the wall. He jumps up, but it is out of here, gone. A leadoff solo shot for Wally Post, and this game is tied. And Feller gets his second fatigue point. So we're tied at 1. Nobody on, nobody out here in the top of the second. And here's Gene Freeze. And he hits a fly ball to deep center field. Roby's under that on the track, and he makes the catch for the first out. So 1 out, nobody on, and Gordy Coleman, Reds first baseman. That's a ground ball back to the pitcher. Bob Feller, it's an X check. He's a 2, and we roll a 9. And Feller makes a nice play. Fires over to first baseman Al Rosen for the 1-3 putout as my X chart hits the floor. All right, so 2 outs, nobody on. And catcher John Edwards. He pops this one up. It's got to stay in the infield. Eddie Casco's under that, or excuse me, not Eddie Casco. I'm doing it again. Bobby Avila's under that. And he makes the catch for out number 3. But the Reds tie it up on Wally Post's solo shot. And with 1.5 innings in the books, we are tied at 1. Bob Feller gets fatigue point number 3. Joey J, who's at 2, is back out here for the bottom of the 2nd. And Dave Philly's the first batter, right fielder for the Indians. That's a ground ball. It's going to be an X check, second base. That's Eddie Casco. He's a 3. We roll a 13. And Casco makes a nice play. Over to Gordy Coleman for out number 1. So there's 1 away. Nobody on. And shortstop George Strickland. He hits a ground ball to shortstop Leo Cardenas over to Gordy Coleman for out number 2 on the 6-3 putout. There's 2 away. Base is empty for catcher Jim Hagan. He hits a fly ball to center field. That sends Vada Pinson near the track, but he's under that, makes the catch. And the Indians go 1, 2, 3 here in the bottom of the 2nd. And after 2 innings, we are tied at 1. Joey J gets fatigue point number 3. And Feller, who is at 3, is out here for the top of the 4th. And he's going to face his counterpart, Joey J, who's leading off this inning. And that's a strikeout. That's strikeout number 2 for Feller. And there's 1 away here in the top of the 3rd. Back to the top of the order for the Reds and Leo Cardenas. Cardenas is 0 for 1. And he hits a ground ball. It's going to make him 0 for 2 to Bobby Avila. Over to Vic Wirtz. 4-3 put out, and there are 2 away here in the top of the 3rd. So 2 outs, nobody on for Eddie Casco, Red second baseman. He hits a ground ball to second baseman Bobby Avila. It's an X check. He's a 3, and we roll a 3. And that is going to be a 2-out single. It gets by Bobby Avila and rolls into right center field. 2-out single for Casco. So he's at first, and Vada Pinson comes to the plate. Pinson is 1 for 1. He had a single his first time up. And this is a ground ball to second baseman Bobby Avila. It's another X check, and he's a 3. And we roll an 18. And that's telling me to roll again. This time it's a 12. And Avila's going to go to second base with this one where George Strickland is covering to get the force on Casco. So Pinson grounds into a fielder's choice to end the inning. And with 2.5 in the books, we are still tied at 1. So Feller gets his 4th fatigue point. Joey J's back out. And it's the bottom of the 3rd. And leading off is his counterpart, Bob Feller. I don't think I rolled all 3 dice there, so we'll do that again. And Feller connects on that one, and it rolls to the corner in right field. He makes the turn at first and slides in the second with a leadoff double. How about that? So Feller's on second base with nobody out. And we're back to the top of the order for the Indians. And it's left fielder Al Smith. And that's a strikeout. That is the first strikeout for Joey J. And there's 1 away. Bob Feller is still on second base. And here's second baseman Bobby Avila. He pops this one up to third baseman Al Rosen. He is under that, right near the bag. Makes the catch for the second out. And now there are 2 outs with a man on second, Larry Doby. Doby is 0 for 1. He hit into an inning-ending... Or not... You know, it wasn't an inning-ending double play, but it was a double play. And this is a catcher's card X check. Hagen is a 1. We roll a 19, which is probably going to tell me to roll again. No, it doesn't. And there goes my X chart again. Doby pops this one up near the Reds dugout. And Edwards is, or excuse me, I said Hagen. I'm having all kinds of problems this game looking at the wrong team. And you have to forgive me for that. But it's Edwards, right? The Indians are batting. So Edwards is a 2, and I rolled a 19 on the catcher's card. And that's telling me to select another card or roll again. This time it's an 11. And that ball gets by Edwards. And that's going to allow Feller to move to third. So he moves on to pass ball. And the next pitch to Doby is fouled right behind home plate. Edwards is under that. Makes the catch for out number 3. So the Indians leave Bob Feller stranded on third. And after 3 innings of play, we're tied at 1. Joey J gets his 4th fatigue point. Feller, who is already at 4, because he's pitching in the top of the inning, is going to face Frank Robinson here in the top of the 4th. And Robinson walks. Leadoff walk for Frank Robinson, so he's on first. With nobody out. And Wally Post. And that's a ground ball to shortstop. George Strickland. He fires over to Bobby Avila and then to Vic Wertz for a 6-4-3 double play. And there are 2 away. So 2 outs, nobody on after that nice defensive play by the Indians infield. And Gene Freese comes to the plate. And he pops this one up. It's going to stay in the infield. Vic Wertz calls everyone else off and makes the catch right near the bag for out number 3. And that's it for the Reds in the top of the 4th. And with 3.5 in the books, we remain tied at 1. Feller gets his 5th fatigue point. And here's Joey J out for the bottom of the 4th. First batter is going to be Al Rosen. And that's a strikeout. That is strikeout number 2 for Joey J. And there's 1 away here in the bottom of the 4th. And Vic Wertz comes to the plate. Wertz is 0 for 1. But not anymore. He hits a 1-out single. That rolls into right field. He makes the turn, but holds there at first. So he's there with 1 out. And right fielder Dave Philly, who is 0 for 1, comes to the plate. And he hits a ground ball back to Joey J. He turns and fires to Leo Cardenas at shortstop, who in turn fires over to Gordy Coleman for the inning-ending 1-6-3 double play. And that's it for the Indians in the bottom of the 4th. And after 4 innings, we remain tied at 1. So Jay gets his 5th fatigue point. And we go to the top of the 5th. And leading off for the Reds will be Gordy Coleman. That's a ground ball to first baseman Vic Wertz. He's going to take that one unassisted, and there's one away. Here's catcher John Edwards, who's 0 for 1. That's a 1-out single for Edwards. So he's on first, 1 out. And pitcher Joey J, who is 0 for 1 with a strikeout. And we're going to try to move Edwards into scoring position here. And it is a successful sacrifice bunt for the 2nd out. That moves Edwards to second on the 2-3 putout. So there are 2 away. Edwards in scoring position, and back to the top of the order, Leo Cardenas. Cardenas is 0 for 2. And he hits a single right up the middle. Edwards is going to be forced to hold at third because it's too shallow. And Doby is on top of it right away. So there's runners on the corners with 2 outs now. And Eddie Casco, second baseman, is up trying to get the Reds ahead here. But he pops this one up. It's going to stay in the infield. And shortstop George Strickland is under that. Makes the catch for the 3rd out. The Reds do threaten, but leave 2 runners stranded, excuse me. And after 4.5, we remain tied at 1. Feller gets his 6th fatigue point. Joey J, he's at 5. And we're here in the bottom of the 5th. And the first batter for Cleveland is George Strickland. And that's a strikeout. That is strikeout number 3 for Jay. And there's 1 away here in the bottom of the 5th. Here's catcher Jim Hagan. Hagan's 0 for 1. He pops this one up. It's going to stay in the infield. Shortstop Leo Cardenas calls off Eddie Casco, and he makes the catch for out number 2. So 2 outs, nobody on. And Bob Feller, who doubled his last time up. But the Indians couldn't get him across the plate. And this time he strikes out. Strikeout number 4 for Joey J to end the inning. And after 5, we are tied at 1. Joey J gets his 6th fatigue point. And here in the top of the 7th, first batter for the Reds will be Veda Pinson. He'll be followed by Frank Robinson and Wally Post. Pinson is 1 for 2. He hits a fly ball to right field. It's going to be an X check. Dave Philly is a 2, and we roll a 16. And Philly makes a nice play out there for the first out here in the top of the 6th. And there's 1 away. Here's Frank Robinson. And this is a deep fly ball to left field. This sends Al Smith back to the track, to the wall. He watches it over his head. It's way up, out of here, gone. And another solo shot for the Reds puts them up 2-1. And Bob Feller gets fatigue point number 7. So base is empty, 1 out. Reds lead 2-1. Here's Wally Post, who homered his first time up. And this time he rips one right up the middle for a 1-out single. Doby gets that one in quickly, and Post stays at first base. So he's on first with 1 out, and Gene Freeze, who is 0 for 2. And that's a single for Freeze. So back-to-back hits. Let's check Wally Post running. He's a 1-12, so he's going to hold at second. Okay, so the Reds have runners on first and second with 1 out. They lead 2-1 here in the top of the 6th. And it's Gordy Coleman. And Coleman hits a ground ball to first baseman Vic Wertz over to George Strickland at short, then back to Bobby Avila covering first base for the 3-6-4 double play to end the inning. But the Reds do pick up a run on Frank Robinson's solo blast. And after 5.5, it's the Reds 2 and the Indians 1. Feller gets fatigue point number 8. And Joey J's back out here for the bottom of the 6th. And it's the top of the order for the Indians. And it's left fielder Al Smith, who is 1 for 2. And he draws a walk to start the bottom of the 6th here. So he's on first, nobody out. He's a stealing D, so he's not going anywhere. And here's Bobby Avila, who is 1 for 2, or excuse me, 0 for 1 with a walk. This time he hits a ground ball to first base. It's an X check for Gordy Coleman. Coleman is a 4. And we roll a 6. And that one gets by Coleman and rolls into right field. Smith gets to second. And Avila's on first with a single. So it's first and second with nobody out. And Larry Doby. Doby is 0 for 2. The Indians could really use him here. And he strikes out. That's the first out of the inning. And that's strikeout number 5 for Joey J. So first and second with 1 out. And Al Rosen, third baseman. Rosen is 1 for 2. And it's a catcher's card X. Edwards is a 2, and we roll a 1. And that one gets by Edwards again, and that allows the runners to move up. And the next pitch to Rosen is a strikeout. That's the second out of the inning and the 6th strikeout for Joey J. And the runners are on second and third with 2 outs. And first baseman Vic Wertz, who is 1 for 2. He singled his last time up. And he singles again, and that's going to score a run to tie this game. So Smith comes in. He scores. Avila moves to third, and let's check his running. Avila is a 1-13. That makes him a 1-15 with 2 outs, and he's being waved home. And he is gunned down at the plate. Veda Pinson guns him down at the plate for the 3rd out on the 8-2 put out. Indians being aggressive, trying to take the lead. But they do score a run to tie it up at 2 after 6 innings of play. And Joey J gets 2 fatigue points, 1 for the run and 1 for the inning, which puts him at 8. So we go to the top of the 7th, all tied up at 2. And leading off for the Reds will be catcher John Edwards, who is 1 for 2. Ground ball to second baseman Bobby Avila. It's an X check. He's a 3. We roll a 2. And that is going to be a leadoff single for Edwards. That's his second hit of the game. So he's on first with nobody out and Joey J. And Joey J was successful with the sacrifice last time. We're going to try it again. And he pops this one up. It's caught quickly by, oh my goodness, by Hagen. And he fires over to Wirtz at first, and they get Edwards sleeping over there, and it is a double play. Poor base running by Edwards. So Jay pops out to the catcher, and then he fires over to Wirtz at first, and they get the double play. So that did not work out for the Reds. So the bases are empty with 2 outs. And shortstop Leo Cardenas. We're back to the top of the order for the Reds. And look out. This is a deep fly ball to center field. That sends Larry Doby back to the track, to the wall. He jumps up, and oh, it's off the wall. And Cardenas cruises into second base with a 2-out double. So the Reds might still be in business here. So there's 2 outs, man on second, and second baseman Eddie Casco. And he hits a fly ball to center fielder Larry Doby. It's an X check. He's a 1. We roll a 3. And Doby makes a nice catch out there to end the inning, as my X chart falls for the 3rd time. All right, so after 6.5, we remain tied at 2. Bob Feller gets fatigue point number 9. And Joey J's out. The first batter he's going to face here in the bottom of the 7th is right fielder Dave Philly, who is 0 for 2. It's a ground ball to second base. It's going to be an X check. Eddie Casco's playing there. He's a 3, and we roll a 1. And that is a leadoff single for Dave Philly. And the Indians are in business here in the bottom of the 7th. Here's George Strickland. We are tied at 2. And man on first, nobody out. Strickland is 0 for 2. And this is a ground ball to shortstop Leo Cardenas. It's an X check. We roll a 5. Cardenas is a 3. And that one gets by Cardenas. It's scored a single. But Philly can't get any further than second base. But the Indians have runners on first and second with nobody out. And Jim Hagan. And the Indians are going to try the hit and run here. And batter misses pitch. Pick hard for steal result. Okay, so we're going to check the lead runner here. Now, we weren't holding anyone. That'll be Dave Philly. Philly's a 1 to... Or excuse me. He's a D stealing. And he's going to third. He's only safe on a 1 to 7. And he is thrown out. Caught stealing for the first out. The hit and run came back to bite the Indians. And Strickland moves up to second. So he's on second with 1 out. And Hagan is still at the plate. So the hit and run fails. They get the lead runner going to third. That was Dave Philly. But allowed Strickland to move up to second. And Hagan swinging away. And he hits a fly ball to center field. Veda Pinson's under that. Makes the catch for the second out. And Strickland holds at second. So that's going to bring up Bob Feller. Now, Bob Feller is at 9 fatigue points. So Mike Garcia is going to start warming up for the Indians, and we're going to have a pinch hitter in Wally Westlake. So Westlake is going to pinch hit for Bob Feller here in the bottom of the 7th. It's pinch hit, bottom 7. And in the top of the 8th, it'll be Mike Garcia pitching for the Indians. So here's Wally Westlake. It's 2 outs, man on second. Let's see if Westlake can get him in. No, he pops this one up. He's got to stay in the infield. Gene Freeze is over near third base, and he makes the catch for the 3rd out. So the pinch hitter was unsuccessful, and we remain tied after 7 innings of play. And Joey J will get his 9th fatigue point. And as mentioned, Bob Feller's day is done. The new pitcher for the Indians is Mike Garcia. He is listed as a starter reliever, and in 1954, he was 19-8 with a 2.64 ERA and 259 innings pitched. And Veda Pinson's going to be the first batter he faces. So Garcia. And Garcia's in the game. Top of the 8th. All right. So Veda Pinson versus Mike Garcia. We are tied at 2, top of the 8th inning. And Pinson hits a fly ball to center fielder Larry Doby. He's under that, makes the catch, and there is 1 away. So 1 out, nobody on. Frank Robinson, who has homered along with Wally Post. They're both responsible for the 2 Cincinnati runs. It's a ground ball to second base. Bobby Avila has that over to Vic Wirtz for the 4-3 putout. And there are 2 away. So 2 outs, nobody on, and Wally Post. As just mentioned, he is the other player for the Reds that has a solo shot. This time he hits a ground ball to third base. It's an X check. Al Rosen is a 3, and we roll a 15. And Rosen boots that. So Post is going to reach first on the E5. Believe that's the first error of the game. So the Indians pick up an error there. I don't think there were any others. No. Okay. All right, so Wally Post is on first with 2 outs. And third baseman Gene Freeze. Freeze is 1 for 3. He pops this one up to third base. Al Rosen's under that, makes the catch for the 3rd out. And the Reds are retired. So after 7.5, we are tied at 2. Mike Garcia gets his first fatigue point. As a starter reliever, he will not be fatigued until he passes 7. But Joey J's back out. He's at 9. He's good till he passes 11. So the Reds are going to get some action in their bullpen, and it's going to be Jim Brosnan who will be warming up. Or excuse me, not Brosnan. Ken Hunt will be warming up for the Reds. And he'll be ready as necessary within a few batters. All right, but we are back at the top of the order here for the Indians in the bottom of the 8th. And We are tied at 2. Leading off is Al Smith. He hits a fly ball to center field. Veda Pinson's under that, makes the catch, and there's one away. So 1 out, nobody on, and Bobby Avila. Avila is 1 for 3, or 1 for 2 with a walk. He pops this one up. Shortstop Leo Cardenas is under that, makes the catch, and there are 2 away. So 2 outs, nobody on for center fielder Larry Doby, who is 0 for 3. He just misses a homer on this one. It's a deep fly ball to center field. Sends Pinson back to the track, to the wall. He jumps up and makes the catch for the 3rd out. Oh, just a little bit more and that would have been out of here. But the Indians go 1, 2, 3, and after 8 innings of play, we are tied at 2. Joey J gets number 10 fatigue point. And Mike Garcia's back out for his 2nd inning of work. And leading off will be Gordy Coleman. Coleman is 0 for 3. He hits a fly ball to center field. Veda Pinson's under that. Not Veda Pinson, Larry Doby, and there's 1 away. My. Okay, 1 out, nobody on. John Edwards. Edwards is 2 for 3. And this time he strikes out. First strikeout for Mike Garcia, and there's 2 away. And that is going to be it for Joey J. And we're going to have a pinch hitter. It's going to be Jerry Lynch. He's going to pinch hit for Joey J. Pinch hit, top of the 9th. All right. So 2 outs, nobody on, and Jerry Lynch, the pinch hitter, facing Mike Garcia. He pops this one up to shortstop George Strickland. He's under that, makes the catch for the 3rd out. And the Reds go 1, 2, 3 here in the top of the 9th. So after 8.5, we are tied at 2. Garcia gets his 2nd fatigue point. And let's see if the Indians can pull this off. We're at the top of the order for the Indians. Ken Hunt is the new pitcher for the Reds. In 1961, he was 9-10 with a 3.97 ERA with 136 innings pitched. So it's Hunt. And he's going to face... He's not going to face the top of the order. It's Al Rosen who's leading off. But it's Hunt in the bottom of the 9th. And the Indians would like to end this one right here and get their 4th win and remain atop of the hill and send their cross-state rivals tumbling down to the bottom. Now here we go, bottom of the 9th. Leading off, Al Rosen. He hits a ground ball to third base. Gene Freeze over to Gordy Coleman. 5-3 put out, and there's 1 away. Here's Vic Wertz, Indians first baseman. Wertz is 2 for 3. Wertz is 2 for 3. He hits a ground ball to second base. Eddie Casco over to Gordy Coleman. 4-3 put out, and there are 2 gone. 1 more out, we're going to extra innings. And here's Dave Philly. Philly is 1 for 3. He hits a ground ball to shortstop. Cardenas over to Coleman for the 6-3 put out. And that's it for the Indians. They go 1, 2, 3 in the bottom of the ninth. And after 9 innings of play, we are tied at 2. Ken Hunt gets his first fatigue point. Mike Garcia's back out. Now, we only have 20-man rosters here, so we have to be careful on how many pinch hitters we use and how many substitutions we do. So we try to get these pitchers to go as long as possible. But we're back to the top of the order here in the top of the 10th for the Reds, and it's Leo Cardenas. It's a ground ball to third base. Al Rosen has that. Over to Vic Wertz. 1 away. So 1 out, nobody on for Eddie Casco. Casco is 1 for 4. And he pops this one up. It's in foul territory. And catcher Jim Hagan is under that and makes the catch for the 2nd out. So 2 outs, nobody on. And Veda Pinson. Pinson is 1 for 4. He hits a ground ball to second base. It's going to be an X check. Avila's a 3, and we roll a 2. And that's a 2-out single for Veda Pinson. So he's on first with 2 outs, and Frank Robinson comes to the plate. Mike Garcia gets the sign he likes. 2 outs, man on first. And here's the pitch to Robinson. And he strikes him out to end the inning. That is the 2nd strikeout for Garcia. And with 9.5 in the books, we remain tied at 2. Garcia gets his 3rd fatigue point. And Ken Hunt is back out for the Reds here in the bottom of the 10th, and it's George Strickland leading off. That's a ground ball to second base. Casco over to Coleman for the 1st out, 4-3. So 1 away in the bottom of the 10th, and catcher Jim Hagan comes to the plate. He hits a ground ball to third base. Gene Freeze over to over to Gordy Coleman for the 5-3 put out, and there are 2 away. Okay, as mentioned, these pitchers are going to have to bat every now and then, and it's going to be Mike Garcia. He gets the number 1 pitcher's hitting card, so there's 2 outs, nobody on Garcia. And he draws a 2-out walk. Walking the pitcher with 2 outs is usually not a good thing to do. So we're back to the top of the order, and Al Smith here in the bottom of the 10th. And Al Smith walks. So now we got a runner in scoring position. The winning run, that is. 2 2-out walks in a row by Ken Hunt. And that brings Bobby Avila to the plate. Avila is 1 for 3 with a walk. Let's see what he can do here. Can he get Garcia home? He hits a ground ball to shortstop. Cardenas makes a nice play on that. Over to Gordy Coleman for the 3rd out. And the Indians leave 2 stranded. And after 10 innings, we remain tied at 2. Ken Hunt gets his 2nd fatigue point. Here we are, top of the 11th. Mike Garcia's back out there. He is at 3. Wally Post is leading off. He pops this one up to third base. Al Rosen's under that, makes the catch for the 1st out. And there's 1 away in the top of the 11th. Third baseman Gene Freeze is next. He hits a ground ball to shortstop George Strickland. Over to Vic Wertz. 2 away. So 2 outs, nobody on. And Gordy Coleman. And that's a strikeout. Strikeout number 3 for Mike Garcia. And the Reds go 1, 2, 3 in the top of the 11th. And after 10.5, we remain tied at 2. Mike Garcia gets fatigue point number 4. Ken Hunt, who is at 2, comes back out. The first batter he's going to face is Larry Doby, who could end this game with 1 swing. But he strikes out. 1 away here in the bottom of the 11th. That is strikeout number 1 for Hunt. So 1 out, nobody on, and Al Rosen. And Rosen can end this game with 1 swing. He hits a fly ball to left field, though. And Wally Post is under that, and there are 2 away. So 2 outs, nobody on, and Vic Wertz. Let's see what Wertz can do. He hits a fly ball to right field. And Frank Robinson's got that easily. And the Indians go 1, 2, 3. So after 11 innings, we remain tied at 2. Hunt gets his 3rd fatigue point. Mike Garcia, who is at 4, is back out here. And leading off will be John Edwards. And Edwards leads off the top of the 12th with a single. So he's on first with nobody out. And Ken Hunt comes to the plate. And he's going to try to move him over. And that's a successful sacrifice bunt that moves Edwards into scoring position. And a 2-3 putout, which is a sack, and there's 1 away. So, man on second, 1 out. We're back to the top of the order for the Reds, and it's Leo Cardenas. And he strikes out. Strikeout number 4 for Mike Garcia, and there's 2 away. Two outs, man on second. Can Eddie Casco bring him in? He pops this one up. He's going to stay in the infield. Second baseman Bobby Avila is under it for the 3rd out. So after 11.5 innings, we remain tied at 2. Mike Garcia gets fatigue point number 5. Ken Hunt, who is at 3, is back out. First batter he's going to face here in the bottom of the 12th is Dave Philly. He hits a ground ball to second base. Eddie Casco has that. Over to Gordy Coleman. 4-3 put out, 1 away. So 1 out, nobody on. And George Strickland. He hits a fly ball to left field. Wally Post is under that, makes the catch, 2 away. Jim Hagan comes up to the bat. Hagan is 0 for 4. And he draws a 2-out walk. So he's on first with 2 outs. And Mike Garcia, he's going to swing away this time. And he strikes out. That is strikeout number 2 for Ken Hunt. And that's it for the Indians here in the bottom of the 12th. And we remain tied at 2. Ken Hunt gets fatigue point number 4. Mike Garcia, who's pitched well for the Indians in relief, is at 5. He's got 2 to play with. And he's going to face Veda Pinson leading off here in the top of the 13th. And he hits a ground ball right back to Garcia, over to Vic Wertz, and there's 1 away. So 1 out, nobody on for Frank Robinson, who homered earlier in this game. This time he pops one up. It's going to stay in the infield. Third baseman Al Rosen is under that, makes the catch. And there are 2 away. So 2 outs, nobody on, and Wally Post. It's a catcher's card X. Hagen is a 1, and we roll an 8. And Wally Post pops that one up in fair territory. But Hagen is under that and makes the catch for the 3rd out. And in the 13th, the Reds go 1, 2, 3. And after 12 and a half, we remain tied at 2. Mike Garcia gets another fatigue point, which will put him at 6. Ken Hunt, who is at 4, is back out here for the bottom of the 13th. And he's going to face Al Smith, top of the order for the Indians. That's a ground ball to third base. Gene Freese over to Gordy Coleman. And there's 1 away. So 1 out, nobody on. Bobby Avila. And that is a 1-out single for Avila. So he's on first with 1 out. And Larry Doby comes to the plate. Ken Hunt gets the sign. Here's the pitch. It's a fly ball to center field. And Veda Pinson's under that, makes the catch for the 2nd out. And Avila holds it first. Here's Al Rosen, man on first with 2 outs. He hits a fly ball to deep center field, but Pinson's under that one as well. And at the track makes the catch for the 3rd out. So after 13, we remain tied at 2. Ken Hunt gets his 5th fatigue point. Mike Garcia, who is at 6, is out here for the top of the 14th. And he's going to face Gene Freese. And Freese hits a line drive right at shortstop George Strickland, who makes a nice play, a hit-saving play for the 1st out. There's 1 out here in the top of the 14th. It's going to bring up Gordy Coleman. Coleman draws the 1-out walk. So he's on first with 1 away. And John Edwards, catcher. Edwards has a couple hits in this game. And he hits a single here. And let's check Coleman's running. Gordy Coleman is a 1-9. He's going to hold there at 2nd. So it's 1st and 2nd with 1 out. And pitcher Hunt is up, and we're going to try to move these runners over with a sacrifice. He rolls an 8. Batter is thrown out. Runners advance 1 base. So that is it's out number 2. But it's going to move Coleman to 3rd and Edwards to 2nd. And it is a sack 3-1. So there's 2 outs. Then on 2nd and 3rd for Leo Cardenas. And he strikes out to end the inning. And there goes the threat for the Reds. That is strikeout number 5 for Garcia. Gets out of the jam. And after 13 and a half, we remain tied at 2. Garcia gets his 7th fatigue point, so that's probably going to be it for him. but he pitched well for the Indians. Now Ken Hunt is out here in the bottom of the 14th, and he's going to face Vic Wertz. And that's a leadoff single for Wertz. So he's on first with nobody out. Game-winning run is on base. And here's Dave Philly. Tied at 2 in the bottom of the 14th. And this is trouble for the Reds. He rolls a 17. That is a single for Philly that's going to allow Wertz to move to third. So the Indians have runners on the corners with nobody out. And the Reds got to bring the infield in. And here's George Strickland. He pops this one up to third base. Gene Freeze is under that, makes the catch, and there's one away. So one out, runners on the corners. Jim Hagan. And that's another pop-up to third base. Freeze is under that one as well. Second verse, same as the first. 2 away. And Garcia's pitching spot is up, but he's done for the day. He's at 7 fatigue points. So we'll leave that card as a marker in there. And pinch hitting for the Indians is going to be Bill Glynn. Or excuse me, Hank Majeski is going to pinch hit for the Indians. And Don Mossy will be the pitcher, if needed, in the top of the 15th. But here's Hank Majeski facing Ken Hunt. Runners on the corners, 2 outs. Let me get his name in here. It's Majeski. And look out. This is a line drive into the outfield that's going to end this game as Vic Wertz comes across the plate. And it'll be scored as a double for Hank Majeski, who is the hero of the game. And here in the bottom of the 14th, the Indians get run number 3 to win this one 3-2. And they gang up on Majeski as he approaches the dugout. All right, let's see if I can get some totals for you. There's a lot of them here. The Reds had 2 runs on eight hits. They committed no errors. The Indians had 3 runs on 9 hits, and they committed 1 error. The winning pitcher is going to be Mike Garcia, who had a great performance out of the bullpen. He gets the win, and the loss will go to Ken Hunt. So the Reds cannot get that 5th win to get tied with the Yankees and the Phillies at the halfway mark, but Cleveland does get their 4th, and they remain atop of the hill, and they will take on the 1953 Brooklyn Dodgers in game number 30. I know it was a long one, but if you hung out with me, thanks for sticking around, and I always appreciate that. And I always appreciate comments, be they positive or negative, anything to help me make this channel better. I appreciate all that stuff, and I try to answer every one. I may not get to it right away, but I always try to answer every comment. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode, and until next time with another replay video, until next time, take care.